everyone. Welcome back to another speed build, or should I say, what's up, witches? Welcome to Miss Caggle's Academy for Witches. So, this is a brief departure. Brief in that it's just one video. It actually took quite some time, but this is a departure from the Wizard of Oz Read Build series because I have been comfort watching, and I had never watched it before, the 1998 adaptation of The Worst Witch, the book series by Jill Murphy, which I have not read, so perhaps, I'm missing out on even more. But I've always been a big fan of sort of magic school adaptations of things, so really excited to do this one for you guys. And of course, I've watched the 3 seasons of the 90s Worst Witch series now, and still a little confused by certain things they've done, because I had previously watched 1 or 2 episodes of the Netflix adaptation from 2017, and there's that character, her name is Maud. I guess her real last name is Spellbody, but she's Maud Moonshine in the 90s series. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for that. Who's to say? But this is the version of the castle from the 1998 combination British-Canadian TV series, starring Georgina. Oh, I can't recall her last name. I could look it up. Sherrington, maybe? I think that's correct. Yes. So this was based largely on a map that is found in the episode something about clocks. It's the nick of time, or clock around the school. Totally, that is definitely not the title, but it's where Hecate Broomhead comes back to the school, and she's all in charge and puts a tracking device on Mildred, and she has a map of the school on her desk, or at least of the first floor. There is actually a Tumblr user whose research I used. You're going to hear me typing because I want to look it up. Let me see what it is. I'm also going to try to link it in the video description. I might try to put up a picture of the maps too. But this is a map of Cackle's Academy that is based on Fenella and Griselda, or Fenny and Grizz. They're mischiefy. What's the word that I'm going for? They're hijinks, and essentially it's sort of supposed to be like the Marauders map from a certain series about a boy wizard who I try not to say name of anymore because I don't support the author and her choices and her point of view. But it is a really cool map that this user has done. I believe it's Which is Which is the name of the person on Tumblr, I believe. I'm going to make sure I'm correct in saying that. I think so, though. Yes. Yep, I believe that is who it is. Who has made it. But essentially, they made a really awesome map that I will, like I said, put a link to that was really, really helpful in the making of this. Most of this here is the outside, since the main map is just the first floor, the one that we see in that episode. I tried to do that first, and then of course you have the exterior shots of, it's a real castle in Wales that I will not attempt to say because the second part of the name could probably, not actually, but could sound like an inappropriate word. I'm going to throw it up on the screen here so you can see. But essentially, yeah, that's the outside in the 90s version, so I tried to make sure the outside looked as much like that as I could, and still using the map from that one episode, as well as from the really cool quote unquote Marauders map, or in this case, the Perceptive Parchment that this Tumblr user has made. You can see, like, on the upper floors, if you do check out that map from Tumblr, that I don't follow it quite as closely because I was trying to get it to, like, fit with the exterior shape of the building. So some of, like, the rooms for the professors get moved around a bit, but it still, I think, worked out pretty well. And I actually had a lot of fun decorating all of the students and the teachers' rooms to, like, sort of do storytelling through the decoration and the items that they have in there. It was a lot of fun. I'm playing around here with the roof above. This is above Miss Cackle's office, and it ends up changing a little bit because I think I make it a floor smaller. And then, of course, I'm playing around with the courtyard here because we have the greenhouse where Mr. Blossom grows his marrows, and you can't see it from the courtyard in the series. Like, when they show that back wall of the courtyard, it's just the two doors. So my assumption is that it must have been through those two doors, so I add the two doors later. And I had quite a bit of trouble getting the spiral staircase area to work for this. I even tried, like, downloading some, like, fake spiral staircases from the gallery to try to use, and they were all very finicky. So I kind of, like, made things that kind of looked like spiral staircases, but it's like this one main round tower that goes up and down most of the castle, and it's just ladders. I figured it could be excused for the purposes of the build itself, because while I wish we had spiral staircases, we don't. And I tried to, like, copy, you know, the vibe and the look of a spiral staircase, and it just didn't work. It wasn't functional, and it kept, like, breaking the walls because I wanted to use round rooms. So what are you gonna do? Here's where I'm kind of playing around with the upper level and trying to get, like, different rounded rooms going on so I can have that central staircase tower going through all the floors of the building. And well, you know, we all know how round walls work, but the space you're seeing now, this sort of, like, elongated octagon, is going to be the Great Hall, where, you know, all of the meetings take place, where all of the students eat their meals, where they play basketball with Miss Drill, and they have the, like, academic decathlon against pentangles. It's where they have the challenge from the wizard school, where they do their debate, and then those two naughty boys cheated with their, like, cough potion perfume thing. I actually had quite a bit of fun trying to roof this because I wanted to, of course, roof it the way that the actual exterior location from the show looks, but then also kind of make it my own and have some, like, fun, kind of magical, quirky feeling areas, which I did end up doing. Here we're doing the roof above the entrance to the school, and you can see the courtyard eventually, for the most part, does end up looking a lot like the exterior shots of the courtyard, especially from, like, the first couple of episodes in season 1. And I did have to do some changes because at first I was just trying to go off of memory, and then I rewatched some episodes and I was like, oh, yes, it looks different. The staff room does get moved a little bit. It matches the map from the episode, but it doesn't really match the exterior as much, which it is what it is. But this is the layout that we've got so far. Here's the broom shed, which eventually ends up moving because it actually is not against those walls that the main entrance to the courtyard is. It's on the side wall, so I do end up moving it eventually. But, I mean, it's just columns with a roof, and then I hung some brooms in there. Nothing all that crazy, but it worked. And then it turns out there's, like, kind of like I don't know. I almost think of them like supply closets. They're kind of like stalls. I mean, there's no horses, but like maybe back when this was Overblow Castle, there were horses kept in those areas. It would make sense. I don't know if that's like lore from the actual like series from 1998, the TV series, or if it's from the books. If I ever read the books, I will certainly have my answer. But um, I'm trying to see if I can look up the actual name of that episode because, I mean, there was almost 13 hours of build footage. And when I cut it down, I know it's going to be at least an hour. So I'm going to be yapping for a while, y'all. I hope that those of you who said you liked the sound of my voice really meant it because you're going to have to deal with it for about an hour. um, let me see if I can look it up. Click, 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 click. Anyway. Oh, Just Like Clockwork. That's the name of the episode. Just Like Clockwork. Okay, here we are. We are inside the Great Hall. Had a lot of fun doing this. Of course, the Castle Estate kit really helped with the windows. And we have to have the organ, as you see there, for Miss Bat, whom I love. And I'm kind of bummed that she was replaced in Season 3 with Miss Cratchit. I wonder what the actual reasoning was. My assumption is that the actress had to leave. I hope she didn't pass away. I didn't look too deeply into it. I do appreciate that any casting changes that had to occur for this series, though, they like write in explanations. Like when Ethel Hallow, gets replaced in Season 2, they like write it in like, oh, she put a glamour on herself because her little sister is at school now and she's embarrassed by her, which I'm like, okay, sure, why not? Here's where we do a little more stuff on the exterior. You can see I like added that extra tower at the back, and here is where I kind of fiddle around because I know that there's a window above the door, the entrance to the school, and I end up changing the one that you even saw me put there because I realized it was not correct because I eventually went back and like rewatched and paused the show to get a better view of the exterior. And then the outside of the castle, I kind of avoided putting windows on the lower floors because you don't see any windows in the exterior shots of the show. And there's like lots of trees around. So I tried to put enough trees to where you really only saw those like two main towers up above and then like the other tower in the back. This is the classroom here that I'm working on that I'm probably the proudest of. This is the potions lab, which might be the classroom that features the most in the show. I could be lying and saying that I didn't do research to confirm, but had a lot of fun. We get to see this room quite a bit, and I think I did a good job of copying how it looks, because like this back corner, this is where it actually does make sense with the map from that Just Like Clockwork episode, because this little bump out here is the staircase that goes up and down throughout the school, and that bump out does exist in the set, which is really cool. I don't think it comes out this much, like it doesn't stick out this much from the wall, but it works really well, and it's next to that inner courtyard that I am not sure if like I've already shown the footage for or not, because I was looking up the name of that episode instead of watching my render video. And by render video, I just mean the actual speed time-lapse video, because I have to essentially make a video, make a time-lapse, and let that edit, and then watch that while I record my audio separately via Audacity, because I am unable, until I get a new computer, to just record in my video editing software. My computer does not allow. It will not let me do such a thing. We've got Miss Hardbroom's desk here. I think all of the desks in all of the classrooms in this build are the same desk. It's like that Executron career reward desk, because it looks, I think, the most old-timey and like an actual just desk that doesn't have like a back to it or isn't like open across the front. Here we're fiddling around with the back tower. We never really know what's in it. I think it's like implied that this would be dorms, but I think it makes more sense that the dorms are in the front two towers, because anytime there's like a shot of one of them looking out the window, they can see the courtyard. And I think it would be very difficult for them to be able to see that from this back tower. So this back tower actually ends up being Miss Cackle's like bedroom and study eventually, which I think worked out really well. And I think it kind of makes sense that she would sort of have a tower study. Hilariously, Miss Hardbroom's quarters end up being, I think, larger than Miss Cackle's, but something tells me that like she would do that. She would like advocate that she needs more space so she can be away from the cacophonous cries of the girls or something, that she would say. This is the staff room. This was kind of fun to build because, there's lots of shots. They have like a fun pattern floral chair, so I used one from Cottage Living to represent that, and I put in a broom, not a broom, a rug, and made sure I like put like things that would make sense to be in there. I think I put down a tea set eventually. And here I'm going in and adding some portraits to the Great Hall. I wish we had more like old-timey portraits. I'm sure there's probably more in packs I don't have. Like I don't have Life and Death yet, and I don't have the new Enchanted by Nature pack. So maybe it's coming. But I did have fun using the portraits we do have. I wish that I could actually buy some of the portraits from this TV series in real life because they're really cool paintings. Maybe someone can make them like custom. But for now, we've just got the ones that like we have. I did use the one from Cats and Dogs that has like the lady and like the little kitty cat and has like her sitting by the diving helmet. You can see it there above the fireplace. Here I'm putting in the rafters in the Great Hall itself. And you already saw I put in that like upper level like fly through tunnel to the storeroom. The storeroom I actually kind of had fun building too and cluttering it up, that I think we'll have some stuff later. Here is a little bit of clutter for Miss Drill in the courtyard. I figured she probably keeps some of the sports supplies out there, and her bicycle is there since, as you know, she does not fly because she is not a witch. Here we're going in and I'm kind of adding a little more decoration to the potion lab. I don't know. You do see this wall in the series, and I know it's got like botanical prints. I tried to make sure that I didn't repeat any prints in this room, so that way it wasn't like too boring. Now we're doing the inner courtyard and more of the potion lab. I do a lot of bouncing around when I build. Because like I'll see things in the catalog and be like, I know where this needs to go, or I'll like be working on one area that runs into another area, and I'll just go ahead and add stuff to it. This is the other classroom. I think this ends up being the music classroom, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's a violin. So this is Miss Bat's chanting classroom that I think they might use for other subjects too, but I tried to make it to where this classroom is for Miss Bat, and then there's another one over to the other side that I would imagine, that I think is Miss Cackle's room, the one that's like right off the entrance hall. And then I put in some ivy, and here we're kind of finishing up the chanting room, and this room next to it is the library. And it's weird because on the map from the Clockwork episode, it implies that the door into the library is through this classroom, which there could be, but that can't be the only door because there's definitely a hallway outside of the door that they always use. So I ended up later like making a tiny little hallway. So that's where it kind of breaks a little bit from being super, super accurate, but I think it's pretty close. And anyone who's a fan of the series will probably really like this build and not really be too finicky with the layout because it's pretty close and really cool. And I think it's the correct size to where if you really wanted to, you could use this lot to replace the Magic HQ lot from Realm of Magic. Could be pretty fun. There's certainly going to be lots of beds because I think I ended up building like 8 dorm rooms. There could be more. And then there's like 4 teacher rooms. So you have plenty of beds for the sages and for your Sims and any other Sims that want to hang out here. Here's the library. I had a lot of fun making this because as you know, starting in season 3, the library has the secret door that leads to the dangerous old book society, which is this room you can see me putting in the basement now. I wasn't able to do a trap door underneath a rug, so what I did was, of course, the bookcase door, everyone's favorite way to make a hidden entrance in The Sims 4. So I did that here, and eventually I ended up moving this backward, and I ended up putting the stairs in like a tower. Here it is, because in the map from the Clockwork episode, or maybe it's from the parchment from the Tumblr post, the Perceptive Parchment that I used, the layout that has 2 towers, small ones, flanking either side of the library. I do a little bit of decorating of the dangerous old book society room here, but most of it comes later because this was me trying to act from memory here, and it's not super accurate. So eventually I'll go back in and I'll fix this up a little bit and make it more screen accurate. Anyway, so you see I like placed down some curtains and stuff here, and I guess that there's not a pinball machine in the game. I was 99% sure we had one, but could not find it, so I put this video game thing instead. Now we're popping into the library and doing a little bit of decorating. I'm pretty sure that there is not actually a second floor, at least that we can see, but I made one anyway because the map from Tumblr had an upper floor on the library. So this library has an upper floor. Now we're going into the staff room and doing a little bit of curtains. They are definitely patterned. They're like a floral pattern in the TV show, so I found some that I thought were pretty close. The vibes are definitely correct. And I like did like a little bit of like decorating with stuff where I was like, I just think this is what would be in here. There's definitely a scene somewhere where there's like 3 little owls made out of porcelain floating around as a result of a spell. So I put 3 little owls on the mantle, and I swapped out this cabinet, with one with windows on the front, because the cabinet that Miss Bat likes to hang out in has windows. And then this room, what is this? Oh, this is, I think, classroom 2, classroom 1. This is where Miss Cackle usually teaches her spells, like when they transform their hats or when they make like the magical soda pop in the one episode when it's too hot. And I placed down the I don't remember what pack the little single tile desks are from. And then I used the green like rolling blinds on the windows eventually. You can see them on one side but not the other. And I ended up having to change that because all of the rooms, I think all of the classrooms that we see use those blinds. So I did eventually use them. And I think you saw me put something else over there. But this is for the entrance hall. And this is before I sort of redid things a little bit because I realized that my original entrance hall, it was not quite correct. I had tried to put like an overhead balcony over the door. That's just not a thing. And here is where I'm kind of going over the top of Miss Cackle's room, the classroom, and deciding how I want to roof it. I ended up doing a glass roof that doesn't really make a ton of sense with how the room is shaped. Maybe before I put this online, I will change it a little. But this is going to go up on the gallery eventually as Cackle's Academy, and then in parentheses, 1998. This is where we go in and we fill the storeroom. I raised some chairs up, and this build actually, everything that you see footage wise was done without the tool mod, which was very difficult, but I managed. There might be some finagling I do with the tool mod before I put it online, but we'll see how that goes. I might not do any finagling because I think, as I'm recording part of this voiceover on the 21st of August, there was just a new base game update, which means the mods are all going to be busted. So which is why I didn't use Tool in this build in the first place, was because I knew that the mods would be up the creek. Here we're decorating the hallway, which I'm pretty sure it's just a barren hallway in the show, but I wanted to decorate the wall. I do wish that we had like more gallery wall things and more portraits. But here's where you can see how I like tried to make this a 2-story room, so it made sense that you could fly through that little tunnel from the Great Hall into the storage room. Now we're going into Miss Cackle's office, and eventually where I put the desk, that gets moved because it's like more in the corner in the TV show once you like watch it and pay attention a little more. And then I did put her like a little desk and like a little cat bed because I figured her cat probably vibes in here. My assumption is that Miss Cackle has a cat of her own. I don't know about Miss Hardbroom. I'm sure she probably maybe did, but maybe like it passed away, and maybe that's why she's such a stinker. I don't know. But I had a good time decorating the office, and eventually I think there's footage of me moving the desk around. Now I'm going in and putting plaques above all of the doors. In the TV show, they are on the doors, which I could have done. I'm pretty sure your Sims would walk through them, but I didn't want to risk it, so I just put it up above. And here I'm like putting up a sign on the, what do you call it? The storeroom, and that room, that bottom tower room where I just put the big Realm of Magic stone rug object, that eventually becomes a big bathroom. There are, I think, enough bathrooms. They're kind of in different places. Like the second floor has quite a few, has 2, maybe 3, 1 large bathroom and then 2 smaller individual bathrooms for the dorms. And then Miss Cackle and Miss Hardbroom get their own like little bathrooms. They do have to go outside to get to them, but they're in the 2 small towers that flank the library. This is the upper level of one of the rooms. I think, yes, this is what becomes Miss Drill's room. So I put lots of workout equipment in here and like some motivational posters, some murals. These are the motivational posters. I thought they were so good for like this kind of like person's room, like a gym teachery kind of person. And of course she's like, you know, non-magical. So I thought like having these cool non-magical posters in here made a lot of sense. I also gave her a desk and a typewriter and put lots of sporting trophies about, because I would imagine she's pretty well accomplished. And I put some like snowboards up because, you know, she meets that man, that wilderness scout gentleman, and goes and sees him and I believe hangs out and snowboards. Honestly, I don't know. I think if it were remade now and it was the same like type of actress as Miss Drill, they might just make her a lesbian, because I always thought she kind of was, but whatever. This is the upper level of the library, and I'm doing a side room, and I'm unsure. I'd probably have to watch an episode again to see, but there's like that room that has the Lost Chord book in it that like charlatan man comes to look for. So that's what this room is. It's reached by the upper floor. I think it's only reachable from inside the library through the door. Now we're doing dorm rooms. This is Ethel Hallow and Drusilla Paddock's room. I decided that they are probably roommates, at least in my headcanon. I know most of the girls have their own room, but I decided these two probably live together. And you can see this side with the big fancy desk is going to be Ethel's side. So she's going to have the pink bed and lots of like pink girly, my daddy has money kind of stuff. Lots of ribbons, because I would imagine she is very accomplished. They each get a cat bed. And Drusilla's side of the room I do decorate pretty well as well. And then it was actually had a lot of fun because I wanted like some like 90s like puffy rugs. So I put on like some faux fur rugs and some mirrors that were like, I felt very like 90s with the stickers on the glass. And then for Ethel's room, I think you can see eventually here, we're going pretty fast because I tried to cut this footage down as much as I could to still make it watchable. I put in like posters and I put like stacks of money and gold bars on Ethel's side of the room because she's got money. This is the first like communal restroom that I put on one side. I wonder if we've already done the 2 dorm rooms in the tower and I've just like talked right over it. We may have because it's going pretty fast. Eventually, this bathroom kind of almost also ends up being a hallway because I realized that there was nowhere for the upstairs door out of the entrance hall to go. So eventually I fixed that. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but maybe it does in a magic school where they're not following like the confines of non-magical people building practices. I made sure to put like the little plaque that I think has like the rules of the witch's code in a lot of places. And then there's lots of places in the hallway, like what I'm doing now, where I tried to put like benches and like a table for like a little sitting area, kind of. I don't know if we really see anything like that outside of there's a couple of benches in the entrance hall in the TV show, but I just didn't want the hallways to be completely empty. Oh, yeah, there's 2 dorms there, so I must have already did those. I wonder if I just didn't film those, because they aren't really specified to any specific characters. I just built some dorm rooms there and kind of imagined, like, the type of, young witch that might live in that room, but didn't really try to make it any particular one in the show. That's what the 2 bottom dorms in the tower that's off on the far side of the castle are. Then here I'm building the stairwell in the other tower that's like closer to the front of the courtyard. And I had to do a thing where I like layered arches so your Sims could still walk, and it ended up working. I did play test it. This is where most of the crew ends up living. I put Mildred and Maud's room in this tower, and also Enid Nightshade's room. I'm just doing some finagling here to make sure that like the rooms get recognized as rooms, because round walls are finicky and you have to like start from the center of the round room to make the wall. Excuse me, I sneezed, but I tried not to sneeze into the microphone. So this is the upper level, and I ended up putting windows on the back because you can't see any more windows on the front from the exterior shots. So I think there might be 1 or 2 rooms that end up having no windows, which is kind of a bummer, but it is a castle, so I don't know. I'm trying to see which side is which here. I believe the side on these bottom floors, I think I put Maud down here. Although if this is the top floor, this might be Mildred. Let me see what I do here. I think this is Mildred's room. Yes, because I eventually end up putting some bats in here to be Winky, Blinky, and Nod. And then I ended up using the like crisscrossy fork and knife, I think, for the rule plaque in this room. I might end up swapping that out later in the footage. I can't quite remember. But, oh, yep, here's the bats. Here's Winky, Blinky, and Nod. They're in here. This is where they live. I don't know what happens when you go into live mode with those. Hopefully nothing too crazy. I think I do still need to test all of the beds in the dorm rooms because they are small spaces, and I tried to cram lots of, like, personality into them. Mildred's has a little less. I mean, because in the show, most of the girls' rooms don't have a ton of decoration in them, but I did have fun doing the rafters. The rafters I only did on dorm rooms that were on the top floor or were like on the top of like whatever level they were in. And then I decorated the outer hallway. This is Enid's room, and I ended up putting like safari kind of posters in there since she has that one episode where she turns her cat into the monkey named Coco. So I just imagined she was like really big on animals. So I put lots of animal things in Enid's room. And here is the outside of the tower that I ended up changing some stuff around because there's like red accents in the exterior shots that we see from the show. This is the tower that eventually ended up being Miss Cackle's private quarters. And then I put a dormer on there because I was looking at footage from the show and there is a dormer on it. Then I added a little bit more to the storeroom here. and then rotated some things around because I watched some episodes where the library was featured a little more and realized I needed to rotate the table the other direction. This is where I swapped out the curtains in the potion lab and sized them down to make them fit a little more. I'm trying to think of what else we have going on here. I put like a sign outside Miss Drill's door to let you know, like, oh, this is the PE teacher's room. And then put some windows in the towers that flank the library that eventually have the private bathrooms for Miss Cackle and Miss Hardbroom. And I think this is about where I realized that the flooring situation in the courtyard was not correct. I could be wrong on that, but we'll see. But I do swap it out because it's almost like an amalgamation of like different stone types going different directions in the show, and eventually I do change it to be look more like that. My chimneys kept disappearing on me, so hopefully they'll stay when I eventually upload it. But we'll see. This is me kind of messing up the outside of the castle a little bit so there aren't as many blank walls toward the bottom, since we don't really see those in the show. You do see the top portions, and they're pretty bare, but I tried to add personality to the sides, and then here I'm adjusting some of the roof shapes to further match what we see in the show. These two particular towers, I changed the shapes of the roof to look more like witch hats, which I thought was fun. So this is going to be the other dorm tower. This is where I end up putting Ruby and Jadu. I think this side here is going to be Ruby's room. Yep, I gave her a red bed because Ruby, and I put lots of like music and dance related things in here for her since she is a dancer, and I believe the actress that played Ruby is now a professional dancer for, I believe, a couple of musical artists, if I recall correctly. But she gets a mirror. I try to put a mirror in every room for the kids, and then everyone gets like a shelf and a cat bed and a litter box for their cats. And then the big bathroom I end up eventually putting downstairs. There's a big cat tree and several litter boxes in there and some food dishes that I kind of saw as like maybe like a communal cat space. But I had a lot of fun once I like kind of decided the personality of the actual characters. And I put like, you know, music posters in Ruby's room. She's got a piano book because I wouldn't be surprised if Ruby played piano. She seems pretty musical. And here in a second is where we'll, I think, start working on Jadu's room. I had a brief moment here you can see where I thought about turning the interior of the fake chimney into like a little nook. And it doesn't end up working, but I kept the footage in so you could kind of see the creative process that I was trying in making the use of this space. You could always try to like finagle and make it into a little nook yourself, but I don't know if anything would be usable is the problem, which is a bummer. Then this side is, I think maybe this is Maud's room. Yes, I put Maud's room on the bottom. So Maud, Enid, and Ruby. Maud, Enid, Ruby, and Mildred live in this tower. And this is Maud's room. She seems pretty bookish to me and smart. And she's a good singer, we know for a fact, because Miss Bat gave her the solo in the episode for Miss Cackle's birthday when they wrote her the song. So I put like a music trophy in her room as well. And lots of books, some plants. She gets, I think, quite a few bookshelves. I might go and like zhuzh up Mildred's room a little and maybe put some more things in Enid's room because they're kind of lacking, unfortunately, with the personality as far as it comes to the decorating. So I might go touch those up. But I eventually did go in and I gave every girl, I think, a rug of some sort under her bed, which I think started with Ruby and then kind of like went from there. Oh no, it started with Drusilla and Ethel. So, yes. Let's see here. We're doing the hallway and then leading into the secondary dorm tower. I'm trying to remember if I did the extra dorms before I did the other teachers' rooms, because I do Miss Bat's room and then towards the end, I know, is when I do Miss Hardbroom and Miss Cackle. But I think right now I'm copying and pasting the staircases, and I think I actually split the space up a little better in this tower, because I figured out like the best way to place the the walls. But the room with the galaxy bed, that's going to be Jadu's room. Jadu Wally, who I guess is not a book character. She and Ruby were created specifically for the 1998 show to have more people of color, which honestly I think is pretty awesome. But I did have a lot of fun putting some like Indian-inspired Middle Eastern decorations in Jadu's room, because I think even though she's included in the series, we don't really get to see a lot of her culture. Other than she talks about how her family would eat chicken vindaloo if she were back home in the episode where the food is a problem. So, but had lots of fun with Jadu's room. There, she has like beaded curtains. She has like fun little lotus flower lantern. She has a cool vase, lots of cool candles, and of course some books and some tapestries. Just I feel like stuff that she would bring from home to remind her of herself and like her background. Not that she needs reminding, but I just wanted to represent it a little bit more when I was making her room. And I think going so in depth in Jadu's room is kind of what got me to do more decoration in some of the other rooms. There are actually some like nameless student rooms that end up looking pretty cool. So you guys could have like a fun time making your own Cackle students if you would like to live in those rooms. Obviously you would need mods to have like a bigger household, to have lots and lots of students, because the household that I made for, filming the cinematic intro that you see is just Miss Hardbroom, Miss Cackle, and then Mildred and her 4 friends. So Mildred, Jadu, Ruby, Enid, and Maud. This top room is really cool. This is Fernella and Griselda's room, which I decided they also share a room, and that is just like a kind of like 90s grungy, colorful. They've got plants everywhere. They've got like I ended up putting like potion bottles because they like getting into trouble. I put some like cow skulls, and some critters in tanks, because I would imagine they kind of steal things from the lab and keep them when they're not supposed to. They also get the cow plant in the terrarium and some of the like freezer bony objects. But I figured they were like kind of punky and like alternative a little bit in their decor style, because they've got the Halloween episode where they see the punky night tonight song. So I kind of leaned into that, and werewolves features pretty heavily in their room. They have several posters from werewolves in their room, and I also did some beaded curtains. I hung up their brooms, gave them their cat beds, of course, and their litter boxes. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that I put litter boxes in for Ethel and Drusilla's cats, so I might have to go back and do that. But since this is, of course, the upper level, for Fenny and Grizz, they get the rafters in their room. Admittedly, this footage is going a little fast, but I was hard-pressed to try to make this video much more than an hour. I think you guys still get like a pretty good idea of this. What I might ask, and especially if you've made it this far in because of looking at my recording, and we're like 43 minutes into the recording of the audio, comment below if you think that the speed is okay for these longer videos, or if you'd rather I slow it down. I have a feeling that I'm probably going to get out one more chapter of The Wizard of Oz before I just have to get a new computer, because I try to avoid CC, and Get to Work has the Tin Woodman's hat, or essentially something that looks like it, and in order to do it, I need more room, and I need a better computer. So that's probably coming soon. I'm probably going to have to do a payment plan, because I don't have a Patreon. Now this room, this is super fun, because we did Miss Drill's room earlier. So this is Miss Bat's room. I had a lot of fun with this one because we know she's a little kooky, she's eccentric, very creative. So I gave her the cool, like, starry night bed and lots of, like, sun and moon objects and the paranormal stuff. Things. I got her like some cool sort of Moroccan looking end tables. I gave her a piano, and I would imagine that she like probably painted it. And we know for a fact that she goes to Mongolia, and I would imagine she studied a lot of like meditation. So I gave her this little Zen corner over here where she can chant and do her things. Had a lot of fun here. I filled it up with lots of candles, books, tapestries, and wind chimes. I covered the corner with wind chimes, which I thought was so hilarious. And I would imagine that she finds them very peaceful, but like anybody else is like, oh my God. Well, Miss Hardbroom would be like that. I think the other teachers would be kind enough to her to not be bothered, but really had a lot of fun cluttering this room for Miss Bat. I would imagine she is a little bit of a woo-woo crystal girly, so she gets lots of crystals and lots of the crystal creation decorations. She, of course, gets some plants, and I end up giving her, like, the moon phase charts because we know that she pays attention to the phases of the moon and when you need to collect certain ingredients. I also put up some cross-stitch embroidery hoops for her. I would imagine she does that. And, like, I just did lots of, like, sort of, like, world travel-y kind of things here, because I would imagine that Miss Bat in the summer kind of goes all over, not just Mongolia. Does anyone know why her actress left after the second season? If anyone does, let me know. I could just look it up myself, too, which I might do later, but if anyone's, like, a little more familiar, like, has, like, watched the show since the 90s, because I only recently fell into it, let me know. I would love to have your insight. Now here is where we're kind of getting into like the closing phase of the build. This is where I adjust the roof a little bit, and this is going to be Miss Hardbroom's suite. I ended up building some platforms in here to keep the roof from clipping, so I put some stuff and some decorations in there. And actually the entranceway and the levels in this is very similar to what I did in my Whimsigoth cottage build that was super popular last year. I just really like how it looks. We've kind of got like that like elevated entryway, and then you step down into the space. And I decided that she kind of had like a dark academia vibe. Lots of like black, very serious. Of course, I gave her like some cool wooden spandrels. She gets the vampire bed and lots and lots of books. And here we go. She gets like the bat wallpaper from Vampires. I would imagine she's been here a while, so she kind of has like a little more freedom in decorating the space than maybe Miss Bat or Miss Drill does. I think Miss Bat has a lot of freedom in decorating the space, but I think that she has filled her room with objects that she didn't bother swapping out the walls themselves. But maybe you can do that with magic, and it's not that hard. But I used the Strangerville bookshelves in part of this room, and then paranormal stuff. And of course, I tried to make sure most of the lighting fixtures that I used worked off the grid or were fire-based, or candles or like lanterns. This is the upper level of that one area for her. She gets her own fireplace, as does Miss Cackle. And then through the archway on this side, this is her study. This is where I imagine she does her grading when she's not in the potions lab. And this is like a dark-toned wood room. This is like the more dark academia room for Miss Hardbroom that I did. I think because I'm used to the 90s show, call her Constance. But is her name actually Hecate? Because in the 2017 version that I've since started watching in between breaks of filming this voiceover, they call her Hecate. So I don't know. Is her name Hecate in the book? I'm just going to have to look on the wiki, but maybe somebody knows. But I had a lot of fun adding the personality to pretty much every room, honestly, especially in the rooms like this where we don't really get to see. At least in the 90s version of the show, what their private chambers look like, but I did decide that she probably has her own potion room, which I put here. I probably would have been better suited if I had put her bathroom in there, but I ended up using the little tower off by the library, as I said anyway. And it's fine. I needed to use those tower spaces anyway. There's not a ton of empty space by the time this is done. There might be a little bit that you guys could like finagle with once the build is available, but not a ton. This is where I had to like adjust the roofing. I hit a little statue on there, and this is sort of like Miss Hardbroom's front porch, and she gets like a small balcony area that you do see in the outside shots from the show. So that's what she got. Now this tower, this is Miss Cackle's. It is, of course, a smaller space than Miss Hardbroom's, which you might think is kind of weird since she's the headmistress. But something tells me that Miss Cackle maybe is like, she lives like a little simply. And like she likes her coziness. We know for a fact that she loves sweets and cheesecake. She's a bit of a foodie. So my sim that I made sure I gave her the foodie trait. But I had a lot of fun with this one. And did like a red and green kind of motif in her space. The back, I think I ended up doing the green to match the stained glass bed from Realm of Magic. And then in the front is red. I thought about doing purple because, I mean, I don't know. Miss Cackle is usually in black, but I didn't want to do another room that was all black. That felt like more Miss Hardbroom coated. So Miss Cackle kind of got more of like the greens and like the floral kind of like cozy grandma stuff. I also gave her a big cat bed because I imagine her cats are spoiled, or maybe cat singular. She gets her own fireplace as well. And the paranormal stuff rug goes in here. I'm trying to check my time for the video to see how much talking I have left. It's not a lot. There's only about 4 minutes of footage left. But I gave her the desk from paranormal stuff, as you can see. And I ended up hanging a flag for Cackle's Academy there. I hung a flag, and then I think you can see there's footage somewhere where I tried to layer things to make it kind of look like the coat of arms. I ended up using like a moon decal and then a cat decal from Cats and Dogs. And I think it looks cute. It's not exact, but like it's close enough to where you can tell it's definitely homage, and I'm trying my best to like copy it from the show. This is stuff that's toward the end now, for sure. This is Miss Tapioca's kitchen down in the dungeon. Had a lot of fun doing this because we kind of get to see the stove and then not much else, but we know there's tons of herbs and stuff hanging from the ceiling, so I gave her those. Then there's the cheese cupboard off to the, well, I guess screen right side that you can see. And then I gave her, along the back wall, lots of counters. And then in a second, once this is decorated, you're going to see me decorate the Dobbs room, the Dangerous Old Book Society, that is, and the other dungeon space where like the girls kind of go to like hang and vibe, and also where Miss Hardbroom goes at the end of season 2 when Mildred and her kind of have a heart-to-heart, and Mildred kind of acknowledges that maybe she doesn't hate Miss Hardbroom, but she doesn't like that she's such a stinker sometimes. So but yeah, had a lot of fun doing the kitchen. I made sure to put lots of like supplies there. I ended up putting like a little like hallway here that leads to the secondary dungeon area. And I put like a beer and wine storage, because I would imagine that the teachers get to like imbibe. So I would imagine that there is some kind of wine cellar area. So I gave them one. And then there's a little bit of debug clutter in the kitchen that I did here, but there's also a lot of the country kitchen stuff. I also gave them a cider press or a nectar press, because there's that one episode where they make the pop where Maud and Jadu, I believe, they stomp around in the grapes. So I made sure that there was like some kind of barrel that would represent that. Now this is the Dangerous Old Book Society room. And this is when I actually watched a couple of episodes where they feature the space and I redid it. And I'm actually super proud of how this room turns out, because I think it looks a lot like it does in the TV show. I did like stone rafters with the columns. I hung lots of curtains because there's tons of curtains there. And then I added, of course, lots of bookshelves, because this is where they store lots of old books, hence the name. So tons of fun. I ended up putting in the phonograph that they have in there, and then like some like comfy old like kind of ratty couches. Honestly, as like a young like person or teenager, this would be such a cool hangout space if this were like real life. Just like this cool like kind of like your dad's garage style hangout, but it's just in the basement of a castle. I think that's super cool. I gave them a dartboard because I feel like they would definitely play darts. And I like put some storage items down there. I put some painting supplies. Maybe that's like Mildred's area when she discovers her gift. And then this side is the dungeon proper. This is where I think when Amanda Honeydew, the singer, comes, where they kind of try to spook her a little bit, unless that's in the kitchen. But there's definitely a second room, pardon the emergency vehicles. Woo! There's a second room, so that's what this room is here. But this is like kind of wrapping up towards the end. I ended up putting like some more barrel objects in this room. This is based on that Tumblr layout of the basement largely. Here's where I shift the desk in Miss Cackle's room to make it make more sense. And I put that cage of candles to represent the cage that falls down when people try to sneak into that secret passage, like cupboard that she has. Then I put her ceramic cats, and then I added like some last minute things to the storeroom. And that's about it, guys. We're going to go into screenshots. Thank you so much for watching this super long video. I hope you loved it. Bye-bye.